coach could tell you, for what it's worth, something that doesn't come along easily to him is writing. He struggles to write. He's not, he doesn't write badly, but it's not a gift either. In my case, another one that I suffer with a little bit is like anything that's mechanical. I'm not good at taking care of cars. I'm not good at construction. Now, I can do it, but I need to be taught and I need to concentrate. So, some of you guys come in here and I have to tell you multiple times each day to turn around. We got to tell you multiple times a day, get started. Don't put your head on a desk. That kind of thing. Now, you might be saying to yourself, oh my God. But the truth is that as long as you do things like that, you're not being the best you can be. And if you're not being the best you can be, then you struggle. Now, does anybody here want to fail? Next, does anybody in here want to go to summer school? Does anybody in here want to avoid summer school? Does anybody in here want to be a successful person later in life? Well, do you really think math doesn't come naturally for you? If math is something you need to work at, then you can come into class, constantly turn around and talk to the people behind you because you're friends with them. Do you think that because you're tired on a particular day, you can put your head down on the desk? Do you think that because some drama-related thing is going on inside the school that you have to turn around or turn sideways and talk to somebody around you about this drama-related thing? Are any of those circumstances going to get you to achieve better? Now, a next question for you is this. How many of you guys wish when you went home you had less schoolwork to do? So now I'm giving you the opportunity in here, when you're done with your quiz, and particularly on a day like today when I entered the grades into the parent portal, it's a couple extra minutes, and you get done with your do it, I'm saying, hey, go start your homework. But rather than start your homework, you wanted to talk to people around you. Now, what kind of sense does that make? You don't want to go to summer school. You do want to be a strong student. You do want a good future. You don't want homework tonight. And you choose to go talk to people. Or you choose to put your head down on the desk. Does that make any sense whatsoever? No. So what you need to do is understand that little kids, like, could you imagine an 8-year-old doing all of those things? Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to be like an 8-year-old? All right, well, we've got one kid telling the truth. I think what you have to say to yourself is, you heard the quote from Einstein, that what do you call when you do the same thing over and over and over again, expect a different result? Insanity. So if you think you can keep doing that, and somehow, all of a sudden, all the grades are going to be okay, you're insane. So let's try to avoid that. Okay, now it's time to stop the homework, end the doodling. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure we're getting this idea down pat about real life graphing situations. Tomorrow we're going to spend a chunk of class going over the homework because I want to make sure that we're getting good on graphing. But we're doing this lesson for 3 days. And given the fact that we're doing this lesson for 3 days, I want to make sure, day 1 we introduced it, got a good example done. Now we're into day 2, and I want to get a couple more good examples, and then we're looking for you to do a great job on your homework tonight. And then after your homework tonight, when you come in tomorrow, we got a third lesson and a lot of the third lesson. Let's turn to where we are for the lesson today. A lot of the third lesson in the unit will be going over the homework and analyzing work that we have done. And then, what you call it, then we have a little bit of a pre-learn packet to start and some pre-tests and so on and so forth. Everything will be guided for a test that we have next Friday. And if we take that prep time seriously, we should be in very good shape. Okay, so write the equation of a line whose slope is 2/3 and whose y-intercept is 0. As soon as I read this phrase, write the equation of a line, I automatically think y equals mx plus b. And in this problem, what's the slope? 2/3. And what letter stands for slope? M. So it's y equals 2/3 x. And what's the y-intercept?
0.
So you could write plus 0. But when I add 0, isn't it like nothing?
Yeah.
So I could just leave it y equals 2/3 x. Now, if you wrote y equals 2/3 x as the answer on your paper, I would give you full credit. If you wrote y equals 2/3 x plus 0, I would give you full credit. But if you were getting a multiple choice question, they would never give you the choice y equals 2/3 x plus 0. So you need to be able to recognize that if they don't put anything after the 2/3 x, the y-intercept is 0. Next, write the equation of a line parallel to. As soon as I hear about parallel to, what am I thinking about? Same slope, very good, but with the same y-intercept as the second line. So, y equals, it's parallel to this line. What do you think the slope of that line is? There's only two decent guesses.
2/1.
Not 2/1, not 1/2. That's a decent guess, but it's wrong.
What?
Davis?
1/5?
No. 0.
1/0.
0.
Isn't the slope the number in front of the x? Where's the x here? There is no x. So I can't look for the number in front of it. Since there's no number in front of it, there is a 0 slope. So it would be y equals, but it has this y-intercept, 3. Now, just to be clear, ready? This is a positive slope. This is a negative slope. How many people remember that diagram? That's it? Those are the only ones of you who remember that diagram? How many people remember that diagram? What's this slope? 0 slope. So the line y equals 5 is a horizontal line that goes right through 5 on the y-axis. Okay? All right, next one. Write the equation of a line that passes through 3, 0, and 4, -2. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, the axes are not appearing here when they should be. Okay, 3, 0, and 4, -2. 3, 0 is here, 4, -2 is here. Okay? Now, go back to, oh, I only want one, I'm sorry, right. Okay, up to 3, up to, oh, I screwed this up completely.
Yeah.
3, 0, 4, -2, there we go. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Much nicer. Here's my y-intercept. It's where it crosses the y-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's at 6. So it's going to be y equals -2x plus 6. Y equals -2x plus 6. Be the correct equation. Yes.
I got +5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Wrong.
From here, 2/1, 2. No, it's 6.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So that gives us what I would call our fundamentals, our basic building blocks. Now what we need to do is kick it into real life situations, which, as I mentioned yesterday, is a very common type of problem that you see with the state assessment test. You see it on the final exam that we'll take for our course, and you're going to have at least one, maybe two of these kind of questions on the next test that you take in here. Plus, you're going to have a quiz coming up that's 3 of these in a row. First one, second one, third. So, how do we do this? Mrs. Wilson oven increases in temperature at a constant rate. The temperatures look like 120, 150, etc. Remember we talked about this yesterday and I said the first thing you need to do is set the axis up? So don't do anything yet, just label the axis with time, temperature, and number values, okay? Go ahead, do that now. I'll give you about a minute to get that done. Come on, set them up. with such big numbers for temperature, you can't go up by ones on the left. On the bottom you can. But if you try to do it on the left, it's not gonna work itself out. So you're gonna need to go up by a bigger scale on the left. Okay, so, I set up the scale, is everybody good?
Yeah.
All right. Now we gotta start plotting the points that they give us. And when you first read this, it doesn't look like there's any points, but there really are. What's one of the points in this problem? Davis?
After 5 minutes, the temperature will go over 120 degrees.
All right, so 5 minutes, 120. So I go to 5. 120, right here. So that made the first one was the point 5, 120. Now, what's the second point that they tell you about in here? 10, 150. Good. So now I mark 10 and 150. 10. All right. Then I draw the straight line because it says it goes up at a constant rate. And there's my graph. Yes,
For the final exam, are we gonna have rulers?
yes.
Okay, good.
We'll also get you a ruler for the test you're taking here. Okay, I'm not gonna bust them out every day because it takes a couple of minutes. The one you have next Friday. Okay, so let's see what it says next. First question, what was the temperature after 15 minutes? So I go to 15, I go up to here, and I go over to here. What was the temperature?
180.
180 it is, very good. What about after 20 minutes? Well, that's gonna be a little tricky, because 20 minutes is 2 past 18, but if you look, I would have to go up another one and another one, so that would be, what, 220 degrees?
I got 210.
180, it's gonna go up 1, 2, 3, 4, no, it'll be 220, okay? And then what temperature did the oven begin heating? That's whatever the temperature was at time 0. In this case, that would be 90 degrees. Okay? So, the process is pretty simple. Set up your axes, label your axes, and then find coordinates. Draw the straight line because it says a constant rate. Once you draw that straight line, you then begin to look at the graph to interpret the information. Questions? Okay, let's have you now turn, well, you don't have to turn, but I suggest you work with the people around you. Louis Landscaping puts the same amount of money each week in the bank. Money is added to some money he started with. Hey, 3 weeks he has $400, 5 weeks he has $500. Graph the amount of money saved by Louis below. I will give you, we get out of here at what, 55? 52. I will give you 3 minutes to get a graph, and then you can start answering questions. Go ahead. that should be one. Time always goes across the bottom, and weeks is the measure of time. Another minute or so.
Is it okay if I put, like one line, 100, 200, like on top of each other, basically?
That's gonna be really hard to tell. You could do it, but I suggest leaving, going up by, in this case, I saw how big the numbers were, I went up by 25s. You could go up by 20s. I definitely wouldn't put them too close to each other, because the line's gonna split a box in half. Yes?
So let's say like two lines of the Y, the same Y, and instead of like it says, you go up one, over one, up one, but then it's like, right? Yeah, up two, over two, wouldn't that be like the same line then?
Yes, the same slope, and if it's starting from the same point, it'd be the same line. Okay, so, the first thing I need to do is look for one coordinate in here. And the first coordinate is 3 weeks, 400. So here's 3 weeks, and I want to go all the way up to 400. There it is. 3 weeks, 400. Next up, 5 weeks, 500. Okay? So now I want to draw the line. And you know what? I'm just going to continue the slope going on all the way to 4, 2, 4, and then that would take me right to here. So, there we go. Okay. So the first question is, how much is saved after week 8? So if I'm going to do week 8, this is week 8 right here. Here. 675. Week 8 would be 675. Once again, you go to 8 on your graph, or 8 on the axis, x-axis, you go up until you hit the graph, over to the y-axis. Because on mine, every box is equal to 25, works out perfect. Next one, how much did he have when he began the savings process? Right here, how much did he have?
250.
250, very good. That's another way of saying the y-intercept. If he wants to save up enough money to buy a MacBook Pro for $1275, how many weeks will it take? Now the problem is, it doesn't fit on the graph. So let's write the equation for the line here. Y equals, what's the slope? Up 2 over 1, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that would make it, but up 2 is really up 50, and over 1, so it's gonna be 50x plus 250, and then since they wanna know for 1275, I've gotta put 1275 in there. And then I just solve the equation that results. I subtract 250, divide by 50, and I have my correct answer. Okay? All right, don't forget about the work tonight. Hasta la vista, Maya con Dios, toodaloo, ta-ta. Arrivederci, smile a lot, ciao. Arrivederci, adios amigos, amigas. Cheerio, Garushines, office, sayonara. Have fun.